Hey everybody, welcome back to the Guide Gals podcast. This is Caroline and we are here for a solo episode today. Today we're going to talk about the seasons of love. We're going to talk about how to have your perfect wedding day in each season. There are a couple of considerations that I want you guys to know about when you're planning. I personally wanted to have a fall wedding for a long time, ended up having a spring wedding. I also was really into the idea of a winter wedding, but there were lots of things to think about. So I just want to go through a couple of those pros, cons, and considerations for you for each season. And a couple of the considerations I'm going to go over for each season is venue choice, attire choice, decor choices, and even menu choices. So sit back and relax and let's jump into it. So I'm going to start with spring weddings. Now, I'm going to tell you here right off the bat, spring is likely my least favorite season. I don't know what it is. I'm a fall and winter girl, and spring is just a little bit dreary to me. But another thing to kind of note for this episode is everyone is going to be in different geographical locations, obviously. I am in Western Pennsylvania. Chelsea is in Illinois area. So sometimes when we reference things, they might be different for your location. So spring weddings in my area don't always look lush and beautiful. Spring weddings in other areas are lush and beautiful. So let me start with the pros for spring weddings. Obviously, then we are going to have blooming flowers, lush greenery, and there's usually milder weather, which is really perfect for outdoor ceremonies and receptions, if it is not going to be entirely too hot. Spring also does bring a romantic and fresh atmosphere. Walking out of the winter season, we are going to kind of get this rejuvenation that we need, especially depending on the area. You are going to feel that a lot more. Typically, in my area, spring does get really beautiful by April, mid to late April. But in some areas, March, even as soon as March, could be beautiful and lush. But of course, we all know the saying, April showers bring May flowers. So one of the cons is really going to be that there is potential for rain. And in this season, if you are affected, which I am part of that population, seasonal allergies may affect some of your guests or may affect you even. So keep those two cons in mind that yes, there is going to be milder weather, but there's also going to be more potential for rain. And seasonal allergies do affect a lot of people as things the old things have died away and new things are regrowing and there's pollen out and about. So just keep that in mind. Now, some considerations for these spring weddings. For your venue, it may be a good idea to choose a venue with an indoor and outdoor options. So if you want to have an outdoor wedding, but you're worried that spending too much time outdoors might affect those allergies, or you just want to have an option for if it does rain, an indoor and outdoor kind of venue is going to provide you a backup plan immediately. Another thing for spring, the attire is usually light and airy fabrics, but you can still do a sleeve if you want to on a dress or anything else. The decor in this season, we usually see more light colors, pastels, and natural elements, meaning that it's going to have more organic, light, airy, romantic feel. Now, that doesn't have to be how it always is. That's just typically what we see for spring weddings is people are really leaning into light, airy, feminine, romantic kind of vibes. That doesn't mean that it has to be for you, but that's something to consider if you are interested in a spring wedding. Finally, the menu, getting some fresh and seasonal produce can be highlighted here. There are a lot of wonderful things that are coming back into season in the spring, and I think it's a great way to freshen up your menu by using those seasonal products. So those are my thoughts on spring weddings. I think there are a lot of pros, a couple of cons, and all of those considerations for a spring wedding. Now let's jump into summer. Summer is going to have a couple of pros. Obviously, there are long days, warm nights. It is going to just generally be warmer. No matter the geographical location, generally will be warmer at this time of year. Lots of vibrant colors and abundant blooms. Oh my gosh, there are going to be a lot of things in season. And one thing I didn't mention in spring, but I'll mention here, is that depending on the flowers you want, if you are more of a peony person, you might want to look at a spring wedding just because they are cheaper in season, but there are lots of flowers to consider also for summer weddings. Summer weddings are also going to typically be the most ideal for outdoor celebrations. We've kind of moved a little bit further past seasonal allergies. The weather is a little bit more consistent. It is warm, it is sunshiny, but that can also be a con. So moving into the cons, you do have the potential for extreme heat and humidity. I've been to a couple of weddings, and my parents talk about their wedding, which was mid-July, even here in Pennsylvania, where the heat was just unbearable. It was really hard to get through, and their ceremony venue did not have air conditioning, so it made it really hard. And I've been to other weddings where it's so humid and hot that the cake starts melting, or food items are having issues, or flowers can't stand the test of the heat. So those are things to keep in mind. Con again for this is peak wedding season typically is in the summer. Now, some areas the peak wedding season is more of May and October. We do see that a lot, but just in general, summer is the most popular time to get married. And this can lead to higher costs and limited availability for both vendors, venues, all sorts of things. So just to keep this in mind, if you are planning a summer wedding, you do want to get planning way ahead of time, because if this is going to be peak wedding season, you're going to want to book your vendor soon, your venue quickly, get your attire ordered, get all the decor planned out, just to make sure that everything is going to be available in the way that you want it to. Now, here are some things to consider if you're thinking about a summer wedding. For your venue, you should definitely choose a venue with air conditioning, plenty of shade, or some options in that realm. I think an entirely outdoor wedding in the summer is a brave choice depending on where you live. It is nice to give guests the ability to go inside, spend some time in air conditioning and plenty of shade. There are also some places in the world where like a summer wedding like this, you could absolutely not do outside. When I think about my family in Arizona, a summer wedding would be kind of crazy. So definitely think about air conditioning, the venue, providing plenty of shade, things like that. And then for some attire considerations, very breathable fabrics, lighter colors are typically best for this. You want to be sure that you are comfortable throughout the day. Maybe you do have like an attire change where you're changing from a longer, more elaborate dress to something shorter and more comfortable. Whatever that looks like, I would definitely consider what you are wearing to make sure you are comfortable throughout the day. One thing for a decor that we love to see is that bright, bold colors do usually come back around year after year, especially for summer weddings. We also do see some tropical themes that are pretty popular, beach weddings. We love all the coastal vibes are really, really good. So I think you can lean into that, especially in the summer. Now, of course, like I said before, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want. But I think it is fun when there is a summer wedding and seeing these bright, bold colors, or like, one thing I loved seeing this past year was a lot of citrus elements, which felt so appropriate for the summer months. Now, for the menu, you may want to think about lighter fare, such as salads or grilled dishes. That can typically be ideal. One, just because it is going to feel lighter on the stomach, and when there's heat, I know that I don't want to eat something that's like heavy and super hot. But also in terms of the menu consideration, think about things that are not going to be so weather temperamental. So your cake, you need to think about what that's going to look like. When does it come out of a fridge or freezer to like stand the test of the heat? But also for any sort of like cocktail hour, if you're having it outside, you need to make sure that that food is not sitting out sweating in the heat for hours before people actually eat it. Definitely just think about some of those menu things. Okay, so now in terms of autumn weddings, we're entering the realm of weddings that you might be able to tell I'm going to be personally biased towards, but I think fall weddings are so beautiful. Now, again, depending on your area, this can look very different, but fall weddings here where I am are so magical. Just seeing all of the vibrant colors, there's beautiful fall foliage, and it can also bring in some crisp, cool weather, which makes for beautiful, beautiful occasion. So the sun is out, the fall leaves are showing off, they are beautiful, and then we get this crisp, cool evening that you get to enjoy. And I always imagine these fall weddings like outdoor ceremony, indoor reception, but there is some sort of fire available in the evening. You can roast marshmallows. Everything about it feels cozy. It is going to bring a cozy, romantic atmosphere in a different way than the romance that I think spring brings. Now, I will say, this isn't necessarily pro or a con, but I think autumn weddings are very specific for specific people. I am an autumn wedding person. I'm a fall person in general. People describe my house as a fall home. I love it. Love it. But if you are not a fall person, the fall foliage is a very certain vibe. You're going to get the reds, oranges, yellow, brown. while that is my cup of tea, I understand it's not everybody's. If you are somebody who is bright, bold colors, pink, greens, blues, this may not be the time for you to get married. But again, do what you want. Okay, one of the cons that I'm feeling currently, I'm recording this right after we just changed to fallback hours. We are in daylight savings. It gets dark so early. It gets dark so early now, and that can be a con that you're going to have shorter daylight hours. Now, if you're going to have a fall wedding in the October months, beautiful. I think that is prime season, but even then, you are going to have shorter daylight hours. You also have the potential for unpredictable weather. There is definitely a lot of back and forth as we transition from summer to fall and into winter. There are days where it is frosty in the morning and very hot in the afternoon. And so it can be a little bit of whiplash when it comes to weather. You also can expect rain. It can be chilly. It can be warm. It is just a little bit more unpredictable. So one thing to consider, choose a venue with warm and inviting decor for sure, but also choose a venue that is going to be able to work with you within that unpredictable weather note, okay? So you want this venue to be able to invite all of the warm colors and feels that we're getting from the autumn season into, the physical location. But logistically, think about how this venue is going to help you combat the unpredictable weather. Now, for the attire, I love what you can do with the attire here. You can do a little bit more layering, warmer fabrics, rich colors. When I think about the things that your wedding party might be wearing, I love seeing maroon suits. I love actually just seeing the unique attire that comes out of fall weddings in general. I think it's really, really creative and really beautiful. Now, from a decor aspect too, I think you can incorporate a lot of the autumnal colors and natural elements. I really love just leaning into this. You've heard me say it before, say it again. I think the jewel tones also get their heyday here. Like, they really get to be on display in these fall weddings, and I think it's a really beautiful time to see that. And for the menu, I think this is really a time where I like to see those hearty, comforting dishes. So while in the summer, I may not want to have a really steaming hot plate of mashed potatoes, I want that in fall, and I want it to be slathered in butter, okay? Again, though, I think for any season, I think thinking seasonal and local is also going to be really great. So put all of those things on display, not just for fall weddings, for any wedding at all. Okay, and finally, let's chat a little bit about some winter wedding considerations and the pros and cons. So let me start with the pros first, is that it is a unique and intimate atmosphere. I really think that winter weddings can be some of the most stunning and gorgeous weddings that I've ever seen. I think it adds some magic just because of the atmosphere of winter. Again, depending on your area. In my area, we get lots of snow, and I think that adds a really beautiful atmosphere to it, but it also provides some logistics, and we'll get to those in a second. Also, winter weddings are typically the least busy season, so you're going to have fewer crowds, lower prices. You'll probably be able to book things, the venue you want a little bit more easily, and who doesn't love that? You're going to save money and get exactly what you want. Another pro, I think, for winter weddings, it is just festive. It is festive. It is magical. When we think about all of the holiday seasons, when we think about New Year's Eve weddings, there is just an energy and excitement and magic, truly, that comes with winter weddings. And I think that is a pro that you can definitely lean into even more when you're planning your big day. Now, the cons, this is going to be obvious, cold weather and potential snow depending on your area. No matter what, is likely going to be colder weather than usual, but depending on your area, again, you can have potential snow. Now, that might be something that you would love to see, but it also does bring in logistics like, how am I going to get my people there? Are people going to have a hard time traveling? Is it going to make for delays? Is it going to make, blah, blah, blah. And again, another con here, which is similar to fall, is it is limited daylight hours, even more so. It's going to be darker longer, okay? And that can be hard when you're thinking about photography, when you're thinking about the time frame that you want to plan your wedding, blah, blah, blah. You also, as a con, are going to have limited selection when it comes to your wedding venue, because you will need to plan for this mostly indoors. Again, depending on where you are, you might be able to have something outdoor, but a lot of times for winter weddings, you're planning mostly indoors, and so you want to make sure that your space accommodates that and still makes it have the feel that you want. So now moving into some of those considerations is when you're choosing a venue, choose one that obviously has indoor heating, please, but also that cozy ambiance. I think there are a lot of venues that, their superpower is maybe in their outdoor section of their venue, and maybe you want to choose a venue that superpower is really on the indoor atmosphere. Okay, maybe they have a fireplace, maybe they have a couple of different areas so that the flow of the event continues to make sense even if you're inside a building. So just be thinking about that. Ask your venue, when you've done winter weddings in the past, like, what do you do? And that goes for any season, truthfully. Like, when you are asking your venue some questions, ask them about the weddings that they are specifically doing in the season that you want. They might give you some ideas or just kind of show you some things that make you see how they've considered all of these pros and cons for each season. Or maybe they don't really have a plan, and that could be a red flag. So just something to think about. And then when it comes to attire, warm, stylish clothing is essential. I love seeing what people do with this. I do see a lot of either capes or furs or other things that I think is so unique, and the layering within it just makes it feel even warmer and just adds a depth to the attire. I think there's so many unique things you can do with it. Long sleeve, long gowns, unique, again, suit choices or tux choices. I love seeing when people do almost like a Christmassy plaid. I don't know. There are lots of ideas here that I love to see. And then for decor, you can incorporate obviously the wintry themes and festive colors, but also this could be a pro depending on how you feel about this. Lots of venues are going to have holiday decor are already available, or maybe whatever ceremony venue that you're thinking about is already going to be decorated for the holidays. You may save some money here if you were able to just use that towards your big day, but also there are lots of ways that you can decorate and give a wintry theme without being outright holiday-esque. So just something to think about. How do you want to decorate? Do you want it to be specifically wintry, or do you just want to do your own color palette and themes? Another idea to think about for winter weddings that we've seen done really well is just very simple black, white, greenery, maybe some red tones in there as well. I think it just creates a really sleek feel to the day. It doesn't have to be overtly wintry or holiday-esque, but can just be really crisp and clean color palettes. Finally, for the menu, I always think of rich and decadent dishes when I think about winter weddings, such as roasted meats or warm desserts, all of those things that are going to feel warm and cozy and rich and decadent. I'm repeating words. So those are kind of my thoughts on seasonal weddings. These are things that you might have already thought about, but maybe there are some pros and cons that can help you decide on what you are thinking. Even if you've already put your heart on one of these seasons, maybe you can just think through some of those considerations as you are wedding planning. And truly, I hope I said this enough, but if I, in case I didn't, please, please, please make your personal preferences the priority. No matter the season, you don't have to listen to any of our considerations or pros and cons. If you don't want to, do what you think is best. And in all of this, please, please, please reach out if you have any questions, if you have additional things that you want us to talk about, especially when it comes to seasonal weddings. We are more than happy to chat any and all of those details. You can find us on theguidegalspodcast.com. You can reach out to us through our email. You can comment on any of our social posts. You can find us on Instagram at The Guide Gals Podcast and on TikTok at The Guide Gals Pod. We would love to chat with you there. And you can also find all of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts, or you can watch us on YouTube. You can see our faces. Now, I will say this solo episodes, we are not on YouTube, so you're not going to see my face for this episode, but for a lot of our other episodes, you will be seeing us there. Also, as always, check out Here Comes the Guide for any and all planning tips. We actually have a couple articles that are more seasonal specific, so we will make sure to link those in our show notes so that you can check out any and all of those things and make sure that you plan the most perfect seasonal wedding of your dreams. Now, I can't believe I didn't at any point in this episode start singing Seasons of Love. So before I break out into song, I'm going to sign off for today. But until the next episode, cheers!